branch webinar, which we're able to hold this afternoon with the support of Shorebird. So thank you very much again. As we approach the season of giving, it seemed appropriate to make employee volunteering the subject of the branch's first foray into the world of webinars. So here we go. First of all, I thought it might be useful for those of you who don't know me to tell you a little bit about myself. I started my career in 1981, and there's a picture of me that you can see there, a little cartoon. But I started my career in 1981 in the NHS in Harrogate as what was called a personnel management trainee. I experienced every function of the HR function and gained my CIPD qualifications. Later, I also qualified as a member of the Institute of Training and Development. To be honest, it was a week before the two organisations merged. From Harrogate, I moved around the UK and then the world, changing industries with each change of employer. I've worked in almost every part of the world apart from South America, and it feels every type of business from startup to multinational conglomerate. At the start of the 21st century, I returned to the UK, completed an MSc in Human Resources at the University of Wales, and decided to establish my own consultancy, which was Abacida. Now, the intention was to stay in the UK, but I'm still travelling around the world a little bit. 10 years since establishing Abacida, I've become chair of the CIPD North Yorkshire branch, a member of the Institute's National Council, as well as leader of the CIPD's HR Leaders Network for Yorkshire and the Humber. I'm also a National Training Awards ambassador, and I regularly represent the CIPD in the local media, especially on BBC Radio York. At Abacida, I've worked with The Simpsons to develop health and safety education resources featuring the characters from that TV series, and with Bloomberg Corporation on the development of news-based management development tools. Abacida now includes a workplace learning centre, the web shop for learning resources. We have successfully linked learning and reduced business insurance premiums with the launch of Workplace Insurance Centre as well. And the other logo that you can see is Abacida H2R, which is our employee management solution. Now, next one. What sparked my interest in employee volunteering as an employee development tool? And it'd be interesting to find out a little bit as we go along about what sparked your interest in the subject as well and your attendance today. But for me, it was quite simple, really. In the 1990s, I do sound old, but in the 1990s, I was head of training and development for a telecommunications company covering Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Many of the people in the marketing function were former engineers with surprisingly little marketing knowledge or skill. My objective was to train them how to be marketeers, which is pretty simple, you would think. Just go on a marketing course and away we go. But the courses, and we're talking quite serious training programs, were all run at times of the year that left quite a gap between the completion of the course and the business's need for the new skills and knowledge to be used. As a firm believer in the adage, you use it or lose it, I had to find opportunities for people to maintain those skills or run the risk of managers complaining that their staff had not been trained properly. My solution was to ask people to volunteer, to help voluntary organizations with their marketing plans. At the time, I was not exactly what I would describe as successful. Volunteering was not something that many people wanted to do. Thankfully, I think the situation is very much changed now, and there are very much more interest amongst employees in volunteering, not just as a development tool, but just getting more involved with their local communities. Now, it'd be very interesting to find out more about how you're getting the motivation of your employees to get involved in volunteering. Are you facing resistance? Are you facing requests for support to be more of a volunteer? Do people want time off in order to volunteer so they can do things with charities or organizations that operate during the working day? Now, let's go on again. I'm just asking Liz to move on to the next slide. She's controlling the mouse for me. When I started Abacida, I decided that I would look into employee volunteering in more detail and find out a way in which it could work for employees, the employer, and the host voluntary organizations. I worked with BITC, Business in the Community, and investigated how the levels of success that the companies they were working with were having. When I started my investigation, employee volunteering was primarily a public relations exercise. Almost a look how great our employees are. They've helped clean up the road outside our factory and washed the windows of local residents type of thing. Right? Is that what motivates your organization to get involved in volunteering? It'd be interesting to find out. Then there was a stage in which the focus had been on corporate social responsibility. Look, your bank manager isn't really that bad. He's helping your daughter with her maths lessons. Well, that we've seen some very clear examples of in the last 12 months or so. One of our big banks, Barclays, has been troubled with various different scandals, LIBOR scandal and fixing of exchange rates, etc. Their chief executive resigned as a result. Barclays now support the Life Skills program, which you've mainly seen the television commercials for on the television. That's a program which aims to increase the life skills or improve the life skills of school leavers, and it encourages people to get involved or contact them for more information. It'd be interesting to know whether you've seen those commercials and what reaction you've had to them. Host voluntary organizations certainly gained from these interactions with the corporate world, and in many ways the public relations objectives of the employers were met as well, despite an increasingly cynical public. Employees also reported a good feel-good factor as a result of their volunteering experiences, but employers were not at that stage linking the volunteering activity that is, to learning or development. Learning was supposed at that time to take place in the classroom after all. Well, unless you're halfway up a mountain, cold and wet, and wondering how that experience would improve your team working. And I mention that because we did have several organizations say that they'd invested in adventure-type training courses for team working and not seen very good results from them. What I found was driving the move to look at volunteering as a development tool was precisely that, a level of dissatisfaction with the return on investment that employers thought they were getting from a training industry that was creating ever more fanciful and expensive learning solutions. In the case of adventure-style experiences, they were not inclusive enough. You had to be fit to do them. When one large Yorkshire organisation moved from adventure-style team-building activities to employee volunteering, they saved over 70 grand in the first year and reported increased levels of motivation and team working. Now, what a company does in their community is increasingly important, and we are starting to see a matching of PR, CSR, and employee development from all sorts of different organizations. Before we started, I was talking to Liz about what Shorebird is going to be doing in their local community next year with all of their employees involved. You don't have to be a huge organization to get involved with your community. You just have to get involved in some way or another. Next one. Okay. It would be easy to say that employee volunteering can solve any development issue, but it can't. But it should be part of the mix, and it works best for soft skills development. I'm going to talk about 3 of the examples that we found during the research which we've been doing over the last 10 years. Patience. We had one company who sent an employee who was known for her short temper to volunteer in a day centre for blind people. While she was there, all she had to do was read the newspaper to the people that attended, either individually or in groups. It was difficult for her to do. They had to work with their pace, do what they wanted. But at the end of the project, she reported that it was a completely new experience focusing on the needs of someone else and to do things at their pace rather than what she wanted to do. Her colleagues reported a much more understanding person emerged from the volunteering as a result. The communication skills, well,